today's race, we'll be covering the first start, which will include the Super Open, the Offshore D, and the Offshore C. Now there's Gifford Racing and Rolling Thunder. Some of the other boats there getting ready. Budweiser and Shooters. There's Gifford Racing there on the inside. There's Rolling Thunder and Budweiser. Almost ready. There's How Sweet It Is, Dirty Laundry, and Budweiser, with Shooters coming up quickly. There's a view of the pack, and there's Gifford Racing with Dirty Laundry on the outside, all jockeying for position, getting ready for that green flag. A closer view of Gifford Marine. Dirty Laundry on the outside. And there's the green flag, and the 1993 Montauk Offshore Grand Prix has begun. There's Dirty Laundry on the outside in the lead, followed by Gifford Racing. Right behind is How Sweet It Is, Budweiser, and Shooters making its way through the pack. Now there's Gifford Marine on the inside, Budweiser on the outside. Dirty Laundry is out of frame and first overall right now. And there's Shooters making its way in the middle, challenging Budweiser and Gifford Marine. Gifford Marine is a 40-foot Jaguar with a wide hull powered by two 850 horsepower inboards with number 6 Mercury drives. Bill Gifford is driving at the throttle. Rich Dancision looking at the Gifford Marine racing team. Some of the other crew members include Steve Szilagyi, Jerry Ballavine, Joe Halbrunner, Mike Burke, and Sue Gifford. The Gifford Racing team would like to thank its sponsors Bell Atlantic and Sunoco Racing Fuels, and also the Mercury Marine crew at the Montauk Yacht Station for all their help during this race. You're looking at the Gifford Marine Racing team. We'd like to wish the Gifford Racing team the very best of luck in this first national race of the U.S. Offshore for 1993. As we look at Gifford Marine, there is Shooters on the outside, and then right in front is Budweiser. You're now looking at the picture of the onboard camera on board Shooters Waterfront Cafe. That's freeze frame videos onboard camera. Get a pilot's view of what this race is all about. The green flag is down now, and you see Shooters passing up Wits End Racing from the left side of the picture. You see Wits End Racing, and slowly Shooters is making some headway there, passing up Wits End. And as we keep looking at the picture, looking at the waters, coming into view will be How Sweet It Is. And there is How Sweet It Is. Shooters now passing up How Sweet It Is and looking at some open water. Onboard Shooters driving is Anthony Izzo from Johnstown, Rhode Island. At the throttle, Rick County from Advantour, Florida. Now there's Shooters on the turn. And in front of Shooters is Budweiser. As they make that turn, Shooters is making up some ground on Budweiser, and they're sort of like neck and neck, and Shooters now has passed Budweiser. Shooters is a 35-foot Jaguar, and Budweiser is a 40-foot Skater. Both are pretty close there in the open class, but Shooters taking the lead by a little bit, followed by Budweiser. Shooters, once again, is a 35-foot Jaguar powered by two 900-horsepower United engines with Mercruiser drives. Ford Anthony Izzo is driving at the throttle. Rick County from Adventura, Florida. Once again, you're looking at how close these two boats really are. There's Shooters on the inside, Budweiser on the outside. Okay, as far as Shooters is concerned, their sponsors are Shooters Waterfront Cafe and also Molson Beer. The boat has been rigged and maintained by TNT Rigging in Miami. And Their engines by Chuck from United Racing Engines in Miami. This is their first race, by the way, in 1993. I'd like to thank the entire crew of Leg X for dialing in Shooter's Waterfront Cafe. Currently number 1 in the open class. You're looking at the Shooter's Waterfront Cafe racing team.